Thanks, Wendy.
Yes, welcome everyone to Creative Ideas, Staffing, Recruitment, and Engagement. Uh, we have a wonderful panel put together for you this afternoon. I almost said this morning, but it's this afternoon. We'll do a little bit of introductions and then we will hear some ideas from your colleagues, and you see them here on the screen. We have Karen Wolters, we have Anne Trochlil, Wendy Sweeney, who is actually going to be joining us via recording, and then Chelsea Ritland. So yes, thank you for waving, and we will hear more from them in just a moment. Before we start, if you go ahead to the next slide, I just want to give a little bit of an update from the PD survey data. So many of you or all of you filled out the PD survey not too long ago, and the admin advisory team went through the data, and there were some literally every comment, and there were some themes that emerged and some concerns, or maybe not necessarily concern, but I would like more resources around and certain issues or practices. And so here on the screen, you'll see some that really kind of bubbled to the top: staffing and everything that goes with that, student enrollment and retention, mental health resources for students and staff. That was a big theme that emerged. Leading with a DEI lens, best practices for integrating numeracy into ELL classes, building a peer network for admin staff, including having more PD sessions led by fellow administrators, access to readily available resources, whether it be curriculum, example intake procedures, staff onboarding procedures, etc. And then ongoing guidance and resources to support adult career pathways. So those are some of the big themes that really emerged from comments. And then the ones that we are going to focus on today, you'll see highlighted. We're starting the conversation. We won't be able to, completely have nice answers to these, but we do have experts in the room who are willing to share their ideas, and we hope that you'll share yours. You are an expert in this room as well. So I think that is it for the introductions. I just want you to know that we do, if you ever wonder, do they read the survey data? We do. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Karen Wolters, who's going to talk to us about building capacity from within.
Thank you, Lindsay. My name is Karen Wolters. I coordinate Mankato area adult basic education, which is in the south central part of the state. And we're part of our kind of southwest region. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about how at Mankato ABE we build capacity from within our program to promote students into positions that we need. Next slide. So I thought it might be good to give a little bit of context about what Mankato ABE is like, because sometimes you come to a webinar and you think, well, that sounds great. I wonder where she's working. I wonder what her context is. So at Mankato ABE, we're considered a mid-sized program in the state of Minnesota. One of our sites is a kind of a big hub called the Lincoln Community Center. That building is shared with community education and our area learning center, our alternative high school for our school district. We have high flex, remote, and in-person learning going on in our consortium. All of those things are active and going. Because of our high flex and our remote learning, we do have teaching assistants in all of our high flex and completely remote classrooms as support. We call them techs or teaching assistants. And we do that with our regional classes and our classes at Mankato ABE. And then we have 3 childcare preschool rooms going Monday through Thursday during the day, so that our students have childcare while they go to school. And years ago, before I was the ABE director, I've been the ABE director now for 10 years. But before my time, we did hire former students in positions occasionally. We didn't have as many technicians back then, but we certainly hired them in our childcare program as a childcare aide or as a teaching assistant or as a school liaison worker. Um, and that was typically a situation where they were a student, they were done being a student, and then became a staff. So, just so you know, in our positions, teaching assistants start at $17 an hour in our program, and childcare aides start at $15 an hour, just to get an idea of what kind of where we're at. Next slide. So one of the things that has expanded recently is we have started a student worker program. And this is a program where it kind of came out of a need that we had here at our main site at Lincoln Community Center. Like I mentioned, we do share that building with two other programs, community education and an alternative high school. And so we have kind of a welcome desk when you walk into the front of the building. And we created a secure entrance there so that people must sign in, put a sticker on their shirt if they're a visitor, and tell us, who are you here to see? And that all came as part of our school security. And then the buzzer will buzz the door open if they are supposed to be in the building. Um, Prior to COVID, we had a secretary sitting there from community ed. And during COVID, of course, everything shut down and the secretary found another job. So we were out without a secretary for a period of time. We also, when we came back from COVID, we're experiencing some funding problems in our district. And we just thought, well, our director was like, we're just going to lock the door and let people call. And that just wasn't working. So I had kind of talked to her about the need to have somebody at that front desk, and we knew it didn't have to be a full secretary. So we came up with the idea of having student workers from the alternative school and from ABE do that work. So the purpose of a student worker is for the student to get experience, to get a reference. Sometimes this is a person's first job in our country or first job ever if they're from the alternative high school. And so there's a lot of, training and mentoring that goes with this type of work. We pay minimum wage. We allow those students to attend online classes from the front desk or a high flex class if they need to, or do their homework. They're not answering phones or doing extra duties. They're simply just security for the building and welcome and greeting people. So that allows students to attend classes from the front desk, which creates contact hours. So if you think about how much you're spending on a staff sitting at a desk, allowing people to come in the building, it's minimal when you consider they could be a student getting contact hours during that time. That has expanded a little bit this year for our student workers. We do have some needs where a student worker might be needed for a 1 hour class. So for example, if we have to add a section and that we want that to be high flex or we want that to be an online class, we might need a technician, like a teaching assistant for 1 hour a day or 2 hours a day. And it doesn't seem feasible to go hire somebody for 1 or 2 hours a day. I mean, who's going to take that job, right? And so, if we do have students in our program at the top levels who already maybe have a high school diploma and they're in our advanced DSL or in our college prep classes, we have hired those students as student workers in classrooms to be teaching assistants as well. Again, they're making the minimum wage. But some of them like that because when they're in there as an assistant, they're also still learning. They're still, able to be part of the class and listen to the content while they're a student worker helping the teacher in that class. So I did attach a student worker job description as an example there for our front desk receptionists. Next slide. A couple of our staff have moved into permanent positions. These are ABE liaison workers. So we have cultural liaisons in our school district, and I attached the job description. These are professional jobs, start at $25 an hour. Some of them are also interpreters. In Mankato School District, we have 5 full-time school liaisons, and then Mankato has these 2 part-time workers. Currently, our Hispanic woman named Angelica, she is working about 5 hours a week. She's a teaching assistant for part of her day and a liaison for part of her day at 2 different rates, of course, as a permanent employee. So she's not a student worker at this time. And then Farhia, on the left, Farhia was a student worker, and actually, she's a little complicated, but she's a student worker taking some classes, but also now starting to be a liaison. So she's been a front desk worker. She's trained in a lot of students, and now she's um, about 10 hours a week as our Somali English liaison. Next slide. Um, how we build the capacity for students to move up into these positions is intentional. We have what's called a snack shack. And you can see at the picture on the right is some students selling snacks and lunches in our student-led store. So we set up a student organization, a student store, kind of like concession stands get set up in high schools. And our students run that store. So the person on the left, Hiroko, who's sitting behind the computer, she's a teaching assistant during the day, but she has extra duties to coordinate the school store. She's a former student that came from our community interpreter class and now hired as a permanent teaching assistant and manages the school store. The students on the right side are working in the store. And so we sell punch cards, and then they use these punch cards to buy food at the store. Our students learn work skills in that volunteer setting and earn punch cards to be able to spend at school. So they're not really paid other than the punch cards they earn for food, but they are learning skills. They're in part of our student, usually these are all people in student council, they're leaders in the school. And then we kind of develop their leadership skills through the customer service they're providing, inventory, advising on what to purchase, and things like that. Another thing that we do to build the capacity within our program is really normalize the idea of our staff taking ABE classes for professional development. So when students are moving up into student workers or moving up into teaching assistants or childcare workers or whatever, there's a lot of professional development provided that they need. Sometimes those classes go a little too fast, and so we have slowed them down and created like first aid CPR for our childcare workers, and we have our students take that, and some of our staff take that. Child development classes, community interpreter, all those things that you see there. The Serve Safe is good for the people working in the snack shack. Google Apps for Education is a great class that we offer regionally that helps our students who are becoming tech assistants or paraprofessionals understand Google really well, because all of our things are on Google Meet and Google everything. Professional leadership is a new class that we started, and that's intended for people. It's on the Atlas website, that curriculum. For people who are in a position and want to move up and really want more leadership skills, we use some of those modules in our student council as well. Next. So some of the benefits of doing this are that you have this pool of people in your program that you are always, cultivating their leadership. So we kind of bring students to the top. We start to see who's a leader, who's in student council, who's working in the snack shack, who wants to work. You find out a little more about them and what their past history is and where they're headed. And it's like, hey, would you like to work while you're you like to work while you go to classes part of the time and work part of the time? Or um, build your language skills in an authentic way. So the students bring great value and perspective that our other staff don't have. Things like they know how it feels to be welcomed in a school or not welcomed in a school. They have been a student. They know the students' fears, hopes, dreams. They give us really great feedback. A lot of times the students will go to them before they'll come to the staff with a concern or an issue or something that they want to try or a new class. It's a great way to diversify your staff. Out in outstate Minnesota, we don't have as many people of color applying for our jobs, or we don't have the language that we need in our schools. And so this really has helped us develop people. There's some people that have come out of ABE that are now permanent full-time liaisons in our school district, which is great. It provides the opportunity for students to start to work in the United States, develop skills in an understanding environment. I'm constantly mentoring all of our student workers, all of our students who have moved up into permanent staff. I'm constantly mentoring them on how to ask for things, how to go to HR, taking them to HR, helping them with their applications, helping them fill out their forms for employment, practicing interviewing skills. It's just kind of happening all the time as we hire. And then they get to practice their English in a work setting, and some of them can still attend their classes and get some money coming in. So that's one idea that I have for you from Mankato.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Ann Trochlil, and I'm the manager of Glacial Lakes Adult Basic Education. We are kind of in the central part of the state. Wilmer, Hutchinson, Litchfield are my main service areas. But regionally, I'm a part of the Southwest Regional Transitions Group. And so today I'm going to share some of the work that the managers in the Southwest region have done together on our online teaching and online programming, and some of the staffing solutions that we have developed as a result of that kind of commitment that we have to our region. So next slide. These are the managers in the Southwest region. And so you'll see Karen, who you just heard from Mankato area, ABE, C. Mualeski, who I think is on this webinar right now, from the Marshall program, Deanna Johnson from Merved, Nathan Warden from Area Adult Learning Cooperative, Sue Vogelsang from Faribault County, Southwest ABE. I think Sue is on this webinar right now, and Stacy Everdeen from Worthington. So our main reason for working together, and our initial reason for working together, is our regional transitions plan and work that we do. But our sort of working relationship is really one of the best things about what has come from that regional transitions. These are my fellow managers, they're my sounding board, and I just think that they are a dream to work with. I'm so grateful for them. So you can move to the next slide. When we do our regional transitions plan, we always budget to have 2 teachers per course offering, and most of our course offerings are online. And the reason that we do that is that it builds capacity in our region in more than one way. One is we have more experienced online teachers in our region, and then also we have additional teachers who are ready to teach class curriculum for the whole region, online, and back at their individual programs. One of the great things that happened this fall as a result of our sort of commitment to kind of developing a bigger pool of online teachers is we had a teacher lined up to teach a regional transitions class on Friday mornings. And the week before, she had a family emergency and was no longer going to be able to offer to be the teacher of this class. So we did have students registered for it, and we really wanted to see this class run. And so we, as a group of managers, came together through email and in conversation, and kind of challenged each other to look at all of our experienced online teachers that might have flexibility with a Friday morning. And as a result, we were able to find a sub, someone who has not taught a regional transitions course, but is proficient at online instruction. And so that person stepped up. They were willing to teach the class for as many weeks as necessary. and they're actually teaching it the whole run this time. So it's someone who normally doesn't take on Friday morning work. So it was really great that that manager was willing to talk to their staff. It was sort of an out of the box idea. And then he's got some experience now with what we kind of do with these regional transitions classes, and maybe he'll end up being offering to help with one in the future. Okay, next slide. One of the other things that we as a region have worked hard on the last few years is a regional online evening ESL program. And so we're in our third year of this program, and it's really quite successful. We have wait lists for a few of the classes at this time. And we know that there are collaborations like ours in the southeast area of the state and the northwest area of the state. So that's exciting too. So some bullet points about the program. We established and created a region-wide online evening English program. So it's 5 ABE consortia, the ones that I just showed you the managers for. And we cover 75 school districts. The evening program is 3 evenings a week for 2 hours a night. And there are 5 levels that are offered. In each level, we have 1 teacher and 1 tech support / para. And then each consortia is responsible financially for 1 teacher or tech support. And as a result of that commitment and the way that we structured it, all consortia keep their own students' contact hours that they enroll in this program. So this program, we also as a region have created a sub list and a pool of subs from each one of our programs. And those subs, like for example, I have 2 in Glacial Lakes that have agreed to be subs in the evening program. And so I paid those 2 teachers a couple of hours. They could timesheet a couple of hours so that they could observe and learn how the program works, so that if they get the call to sub, they'll be ready to go. And then we have also agreed as a region, if we have a staff member who agrees to sub, we pay that sub from our own consortia. And then at the end of the year, if we have someone who's subbed a lot, we could invoice the program whose teacher they subbed for. So after 2 years, I don't believe any of the consortia have asked for a reimbursement for one of their staff subbing, because it's been maybe once or twice. So it hasn't necessarily been enough hours to kind of seek that reimbursement. But it's we have a leave log and a sub list that documents that are kept up to date, and that helps manage, along with the amazing Mary Kate from Mankato, who keeps us all so very organized and kind of keeps on top of all of those tracking documents. So that is how we sort of creatively work with subs for our regional online program. And also each year, as we're coming in to the following year, we look at who the current teachers are, who the current tech / paras are, and who's planning to return. Does anyone have another teacher that would like a chance at teaching this? So it's just kind of a regular conversation that we have as managers, overseeing and advising this collaboration that we have. Next slide. So this is I can already talk about this slide, but this is a picture for you of the teachers at each level and the tech assistants at each level. And then I just have that little bullet point about how we work through subbing in our evening program. All right, next slide. And some of the bonus sort of benefits that has resulted because of our kind of commitment to our region and our relationship as managers and our work together have come through a monthly online meeting that we have. So usually the agenda with that monthly meeting is the advisory of our online evening ESL program. And so we always have, if there are any issues that we need to address, we do those first. But the other benefit of that is that we have a little bit of time at the end of those meetings just in general to support each other as managers. And so we problem solve with each other and we act as a sounding board for each other. And so a creative staffing solution that came out of these conversations that we regularly have with each other as managers is that one of our consortium member managers told the group that they were having a hard time hiring an online teacher at their consortium for some programming. It just so happened that another manager said that she had a staff person, a full-time teacher, who was looking for part-time work in the evening. And so the two managers talked a little bit about what they were looking for, and they were able to make a referral. So now we have a teacher at one consortium who is full-time during the day, who is working part-time at another consortium because it is an online position. So we were able to, even just like our students will sometimes cross our boundaries and participate in more than one program, we have a teacher now who teaches at two different programs within our region. And that was another way. It's just multi-tiered, the number of benefits that came out of result of that conversation that regularly happens between our program managers. So that is pretty much all of the tips that I had and the insights about how our regional collaborations have helped with some staffing solutions.
Well, hello, everyone. I am Chelsea Ritland. I'm the Assistant Director for the Adult Options and Adult Education Program. We are the school districts of Hopkins, St. Louis Park, Minnetonka, and Wayzata, west of Minneapolis. And as we saw in the statewide survey, the theme that emerged around mental health and wellness, supporting teachers and staff, I also saw that in my own staff from my own end of year survey about what would you like to see more of next year and what can we improve, what can we do more around any certain topic. And there were lots of comments around ways that we can further support our students' mental well-being and mental health. And so I attended several sessions on this thread at Summer Institute. And one that really stood out was a presentation by Wendy Sweeney from Panda, who we'll hear from in a moment, and Andrea Eckelberger, who's currently an ESL instructor at Robbinsdale. And I took their presentation, they shared it with me rather, but was able to adapt it for our kickoff at our start of year welcome back for our staff. So I wanted to share a little bit about how we're using some of their suggestions and resources out of Panda and instructional tips for the classrooms. So next slide, please. And we all know on the topic of retention for staff and learners, engagement of learners, mental wellness and health, mental health is so important for staff retention. Our students have a lot of PTSD, as we know, and trauma. And so we must, as educators, factor that into the learning process and make our classrooms reflective of the need for supporting people that are experiencing PTSD in order to help them achieve their learning goals. So that mind, body, spirit connection, the practice of being present, the body keeps the score. Highly recommend this book around trauma and healing and learning. This is just a very brief context as to why we're talking about mental health as it relates to retention and engagement. And now we're going to hear from Wendy Sweeney, who's going to give an overview of the resources that's available to all of us as our mental health supplemental service provider and ABE for the state. And then we're going to dive more into one resource that I find really exciting and useful for both teachers and staff.
Great, thank you. I'm going to start playing the video. I'll just want some confirmation that you can hear it.
Hi, this is Wendy Sweeney. I am the manager for PANDA. PANDA provides disability assistance for adult education programs across the state of Minnesota. I was asked to do a recording today for your meeting because I'm out of town in warmer weather. Sorry. But I am happy to share some wonderful resources that we have on our website, particularly in regards to mental health resources. So the first thing I want to show you is down the left side of our website are several different categories with information about several different types of disabilities, and one of them being mental health. So I'm going to click on the mental health category and show you what else we have in here. We have an overview of mental health challenges. You can then just read through that. Then there is a section on how mental health conditions are identified and diagnosed. And then under that, there are instances of classroom challenges that teachers may see in their room, and then strategies for them to use in the classroom when there might be some behavior challenges. And then last but not least, there is some ELL applications that will explain more about some challenges that students from other cultures may have and some of their cultural differences in how they might view mental health and getting treatment. And then I really mainly wanted to show you our resources. So in that mental health category, the subcategory resources has all kinds of free and sliding fee scale mental health resources. And there's a lot of them out there. So the first ones I really want to point out are the 24/7 free crisis lines. The first one that is really important is the new Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, which has really only been in effect in the last year, the 988, kind of like 911. But 988, that can be called, this is all over the country, it's a national hotline number now, whereas it used to be quite a long number. So just calling 988 if there's anybody that is having suicidal thoughts, making suicidal comments, or maybe even having a mental health crisis. This would be the number to call. They have many translators in over 150 languages available on this site. You can also go to the website and there's a chat line also available there, and also a texting. The other one I want to point out is this mental health crisis response. This is every county has a crisis response team, and this is something that's been around for a really long time, but a lot of people aren't aware of it. All you have to do is to click right at the screen here, and you will find the number in your county for any kind of crisis that occurs either in the school, in your class, in your program. They will come to a work setting, a school setting, or go to someone's home to check in on them and do an evaluation. So that's a really very good resource for you to be aware of. There are several other that I won't go into detail about, but as you scroll down on this page, we have gobs of free crisis lines. Also, there is, you can print up a list of resources to have available and have posted in your classrooms. And then there are several sliding fee mental health clinics in the metro area and also in greater Minnesota. So we have several great resources there. The last thing I want to point out to you, because I am somebody who is more supportive of being proactive rather than reactive, that we devised these mental wellness tip sheets. And these are available for you to use in your program. The teachers and students can also see them. We have them in 7 different languages, as you can see. And I'll show you the example in English. It's just a 2-sided mental wellness tip sheet that talks about different simple ways you can stay mentally well. We all know a lot about physical wellness, but not enough about how to stay mentally well. So it's just 10 tip sheets, and it's gotten very good feedback. And actually what we did at Trochlil Learning Center, where Panda is housed, we put all of the mental wellness tip sheets out in every language out on a table. So when students came by, they could pick up the ones that were in their language. And it was a great hit, because they were excited to see information in their language, their own language. The last thing I would like to point out for you is that we do have free professional development. If you go to the PD link up at the top of our page, there are several free online courses that teachers can take to learn more about mental health. One is a course about teaching ABE students about mental health. Colleen Crosley, who used to be a teacher at the Robbinsdale Adult Academic Program, developed this for us. It's really excellent. All a teacher would have to do is click here to register, and then they get the link to the course. Then we also have many courses that are online on the Literacy Minnesota site. We are in the midst of transferring it to Canvas, but a lot of information about mental health if teachers need that CEU relicensure requirement. We have a PTSD course. We have one about reducing the stigma of mental illness, and a suicide prevention course as well. So wanted to point those all out. If you have any questions at all and want to reach out, you certainly can do that at any time. That's what we're here for at Panda. And you can either just email at the bottom. This will link you right to our email. This comes directly into my inbox, or you can call at any time. Enjoy the rest of your conference.
And I'll go back to you, Chelsea.
Thank you, Patsy. Yes, as Anne noted, a little does Wendy know that it's supposed to be 64 here today. So we're all enjoying a little warmth today. Hope Wendy's having a good vacation, and lots of good resources there that Wendy shared. And so I hope you found those useful. And what I want to focus the next few minutes on is the mental wellness tip sheet that she showed. So you'll see Patsy put a link to that in the chat as well. And these are the 10 tips. I'd love for you, if you're available, to pull up another tab and look at that PDF on your own screen if this is too small for you here. But you can see the 10 tips. And I want to think about really how can we use these for everyday instruction and with our staff. So take a minute and read through these. And then think about, I'm going to ask for your brief participation. If you can go to the next slide and just type in the chat how you will use 2 of these mental health tips for your own self-care, or what do you already do for your own self-care as it relates to 2 of these tips. So you can just take a moment, read through those, maybe just choose 2 that speak to you, type how you use those. If you can click again, I can share 2 of mine that
I might just put them back on the screen while people are.
Yes.
There we go. So the task is, how do you use 2 of them, if you want to put them in the chat.
writing down worries, checking self-talk, focusing on what you can control, quieting your mind. The boundaries one, I'm sure that's a big one for a lot of managers out there. Taking a break, quieting the mind. So yeah, just keep thinking. Feel free to keep adding these into the chat. Thank you, everybody that added. I know for myself, Patsy, if you can go to the next slide. Definitely agree. Taking a break and quieting your mind. I'm seeing a lot of that repeating here as well. Taking a walk during work, doing a quick mini crossword, a New York Times puzzle game, quieting my mind, just taking a few intentional breaths in between, even while you're sitting at your desk, right? It doesn't have to be anything major. And so if you want to share this mental wellness tip sheet with your staff, this is a nice activity you can do with your staff, and just encouraging them to focus on their own self-care as well. And if you want to go to the next slide, please. Teachers were really also eager to know, okay, well, how can I apply these into the classroom? What does this look like when it's applied in a learning setting? And we did a 2-hour in-depth presentation. Again, kudos and thanks to Andrea Eckelberger for creating these slides here. One of our instructors and I took these and added more and invited other staff members to add what their practices are on these topics. But we looked in depth at these 4 on the wellness sheet, talking about your feelings, taking a break, quieting your minds, and keeping a gratitude journal. And we'll just look briefly at 2 of these and some of the suggested activities that instructors can do in the classroom with students. Next slide, please. So we'll look at the talking about your feelings. If you just keep going there. Thank you. So yes, you can, lots of different ways teachers can incorporate talking about your feelings into a classroom and in the context of English language acquisition and building literacy skills. So a fun one that we did, you can actually get up and do these activities with your staff as you're introducing them. You can have everybody draw an emoji that they're feeling, or have pre-printed sets of emojis prepared for people, and do a little mingle. Show the picture and talk about why are you feeling that way? You can just keep clicking through. Thank you. A class check-in. So another way to talk about your feelings is by saying, what are you thinking about today? Can feel a little less loaded than talk about your feelings or how are you feeling? Just what's on your mind, getting people to have an opportunity to open up about what is on their mind, and then being able to share that and let go can often create room for the learning to take place and to let it go, and then come into the present moment of the classroom and focusing on what the objective is for the day. Another way to get to talk about what's on people's mind is asking students to bring in a photo. Could be of their family, something from their home, any topic, just to get them to talk a little bit about more what's going on in personal lives. And of course, with staff, you can do any of these same activities. In adult options, we like to start our admin team meetings with a restorative circle, which is a practice that's adopted Hopkins-wide, where we're using a practice of just beginning the meeting with some sort of check-in that usually can allow people to share what's going on personally, professionally. It can be something light and fun, can be related to what's going on in the calendar year, or an opportunity to address concerns, more deep concerns happening in the community, anything like that. Just always thinking about how we can create space for people to share beyond what's important on the agenda as well. So the next slide, please. This is a really fun one, and I'm sure many of you have seen a meme scale. And of course, pictures are a great way across all literacy levels for students to get to be able to engage with one another and share how they're feeling without having more advanced vocabulary, right? So on this scale of squirrel from 1 to 9, go ahead and type in the chat. How are you feeling today on this squirrel scale, 1 to 9? The pictures are your own interpretation. And it's fun to do this in the classroom or even with your own staff, because then you can kind of have everybody, okay, raise your hand and look around and see who's a 1, who's a 2, who's a 3, who's a 4. And then you can pair and share, talk about why you're feeling a 4 or a 5 today. Just a fun, lighthearted way to get to talk about your feelings. Next slide, please. And then the last one I thought I would just touch on, as we're in the month of November and Thanksgiving, keeping a gratitude journal. So just the research that's out there on how keeping gratitude at front of mind does make people feel better and increases your mental wellness and health. It's something small that you can do to focus on the positive. So class thank you sentence frames, thinking about what vocabulary and what grammar would you need to pre-teach to write thank you notes, have students do thank you speeches, pre-record and share out, do a thank you journal, just keeping a record of what makes you say thank you, what happened yesterday, today, tomorrow. One goal I'm hoping to get done this November is to write a thank you card to my staff for Thanksgiving. And this is a fun activity you can do, is actually bring a packet of thank you cards, cute stationery, pass them out, and have people write a thank you card to anybody in their life. Could be to someone in your personal life or to a colleague, and then encourage them to actually deliver that letter, and just to cultivate that practice of gratitude. And it means a lot for people to get a letter that's unexpected, and a small note of gratitude and appreciation can go a long way. So think about just on your own, take a moment to reflect on which of the mental health tips from the sheet would you like to try out with your class or staff, and what other suggestions or ways that teachers can build in mental health activities into their everyday instruction. Just encourage you to maybe hold a meeting if you have the time on this, and allow teachers to share. I have so many wonderful things that they're already doing in the classroom, and it's nice to be able to just focus solely on this topic and exchange tips for how they're incorporating these intentional moments for wellness in the classroom, and to encourage that, and to encourage teachers to have fun with that. So this was a full like 2-hour presentation that Wendy and Andrea did at Summer Institute, and the full slides to that are in the participant materials. I think that's it.
Thank you so much, Chelsea. Be sure to check out the chat. There was a lot of fun things in there for you. We have about 10 minutes left. Hang with us because I do want to ask if there were any other questions that you have. But I also want to let you know about this. I'm going to call it a poll, but it's really a survey or questionnaire of sorts. We need more information from you. So Chelsea and Wendy shared some, but because it was such a large there were just such a large number of comments on the PD survey that really were requesting mental health resources for staff and students. We want to dive a little bit more deeply into specifically what would be helpful. So Patsy just put the poll in the chat, and you can open it and take a look. But it's a Google form, so you don't have to complete it now. And I'm going to actually have it sent out with the evaluation and with all those materials in an email. So you don't have to complete it right now, but I do want to give you an idea of the question. So there are sentence stems to complete. One is, I need to develop my own understanding of blank. Maybe it's of PTSD, or it's of how grief affects someone, or like, your students and staff and the issues that people are facing. I would like to be able to better support my staff as they deal with blank. Maybe it's secondary trauma. it could be anything. I want to learn how to better support students who fill in the blank. If we, and think about it as MNABE, don't increase our understanding of how to support staff or students' mental health, I'm concerned that blank. This is really trying to get at, like, there seems to be a little bit of an urgency in the data. And so trying to really pinpoint how people are feeling. And then there is a list of things to choose from. I would prefer to receive mental health trainings and resources in the following ways. And you can click multiple, if I did the settings correctly, you can click multiple, whether it's a book club or a presentation or a half-day training or whatever. How would you like to receive that information? We would love that data as well. And then the next slide, the very last question is, if you have resources that you would like to share with your colleagues that you think other admins should know about, please share that. And so there's a space on the form to do that as well. A lot of these questions are required because we really, like in the form, because we really do, the administrator PD advisor team really wants to know your answers. But if there's a question that you really just don't have anything to share, just put NA so that you can submit the form for the others. So yeah, if you opened it, awesome. We will keep going for now, just so that we get you out of here by 2 o'clock. But that will be coming in the email following the webinar. So please, please, please fill that out. We do want to know more specifically what you're looking for. And then as far as questions, I didn't see any more that came in. I think there was one about an end of year survey. I think that was directed to Chelsea. If there was an end of year survey that could be shared. Otherwise, are there any other burning questions before we share our last announcements? You can put them in the chat. If you're still typing, please continue typing and we'll just circle back. But otherwise, I am going to turn it over to Patsy to talk briefly about announcements and resources. And then we have one final question for you in the chat. So stay tuned.
Thank you. Well, just a handful of things, and I know you all probably have these on your radar, but just in case, a few things that are coming up. Of course, very soon is the Support Services Conference. And then the Transitions webinar coming up later this month is Post-Secondary Partnerships. You'll definitely want to tune in for that one. Everything is available in the events calendar. Lindsay, if you can drop that link for us, that would be helpful. And then December 5th, we've got Math and EL coming up, another webinar. That's what we call our math content webinar, and you'll want to be part of that one if you or your program offer math to anyone who's learning English at the same time that they're learning math. Volunteer management, of course, coming up a couple days later. And then the Teaching Numeracy to Adults cohort, we piloted that last year and it went so beautifully. We're so excited to offer it again. And we are working on getting graduate credit available for that as well. So hopefully through Hamlin, we'll be able to offer 2 graduate credits for people who complete that cohort. So, or not, if you're not interested in graduate credit, but that will be beginning in January, and you'll see registration materials coming out to that fairly soon. And then language and literacy is going to be virtual this year. We're doing it virtual and in person every other year, coming up at the end of January, the 25th and 26th. And just a note related to the content of today's webinar, one of our keynote speakers is Lucille Rosario, who will be speaking on trauma and trauma-informed practices and the effect of trauma on learning. So that appeals, of course, to all of us. And so it affects everybody involved with adult education. Basically, if you work with humans, you will probably need to know some of what she is going to share. So, and I know drawing deeply from the work that Chelsea mentioned, that how the body keeps the score, and other work as well that has been used in the Trauma-Informed Practices Study Circle, as well as other webinars that we have offered through Atlas. Budgeting, ever a concern for all of us, coming up February 20th. This, I think, is our 3rd budgeting webinar, an annual event here at Atlas. And then the Metro Regional, finally, yet again, we are offering that one in person in March. That will be, I believe it's in Roseville this year. We haven't, that was the last event we had. It was on March 6, 2020, before everything shut down. And then things have shuffled in many, many ways. And we are offering that event for the first time in person since 2020. So join us for that if you live in the metro area. And then April 23rd is our next admin webinar, topic TBD. So please fill out all of the surveys and such so that we can pinpoint a topic for that one. Maybe it'll be mental health related, who knows? And that's, I think, it as far as announcements. Anything to add, Lindsay?
No, I'll just briefly share the rationale for the resources on the next screen.
Yeah, I think a question about support services conference. That's actually not an Atlas event. You'll want to, who can they direct a question about support services conference to? I will get back to you about that in just a moment.
Would it be Heather Williams or?
It would be Spark, but I'll get a contact, or maybe
Okay.
someone on the call knows who that is. I will find out.
And then there was also some resource requests that came out through the PD survey data as well. So I linked some commonly asked questions from the survey data here. The new foundations course, it's updated, it's in Canvas, it fulfills the staff training policy, but it also serves as a nice hub of information, of updated information about funding and contact hour rates and assessments. CASA steps is reflected in there. So it's a great hub of information. Even if you've already completed the training, you can still sign up, and it's hyperlinked here. The FAQs, I linked to the website. That's a nice reference as well. It's in lieu of the ABE handbook. Adult career pathways, again, that was something that came out. And so just linking here to the resources that we do have. Hopefully more will come in the future. The FY24 calendar of events, and that's all supplemental service providers. And then suggested PD pathways, where it's like, how do I help my staff prioritize? How do I prioritize? That could be a resource, and it's suggested, it's not mandated, but it is a resource to help kind of plan PD over a period of time. The final question we have, and we are gonna have time, this is great, we have 2 minutes left. The final question we have is wanting to gather, on the next screen, wanting to gather your input in the chat. So we're trying to think about the right balance of admin focused offerings. So what we have planned, we have web chats with MDE, those happen 4 times a year. That's kind of, that information push out. We have 3 webinars scheduled, including this one, where we're able to hear from more administrators, and sometimes MDE and Atlas staff, and around a specific topic. And then we have some networking that happens at regionals. What else? Do you have anything on the top of your mind? What else would you like to see as far as connecting administrators or having administrator focused PD? So I'll give you a moment. If you have an idea, whether it's a newsletter article series or a book club, or I don't know, anything, just examples. And that is also something that you could add into the comments for one of your questions with the mental health survey. I'll be looking at that. Yes, the manager meeting.
Yeah,
A couple
times. Yeah.
Yes.
We can certainly pass that along to the state staff as well. That came up in the PD survey a couple times. Yeah, that's good to hear.
It is. If you have anything else, I want to respect your time. Thank you for all the things we tried to bring to you today. If you want to email me anything, you can. My email will be on the next slide. Email me any suggestions, any requests, and we'll pass them along, and we will continue to talk about it. And the administrator PD advisory team definitely takes concerns to heart. So thank you to all our presenters.
I'm going to stop sharing if our presenters want to come on
Yes.
camera again and wave at us. Yeah. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Appreciate everyone's time and all your busy schedules to put together a slideshow and talk at us here.
Yes.
Really
And I will
helpful.
stop recording.